On this episode, we're going back to where it all began for me when it comes to going on safari to Africa. We're going back to Zimbabwe 30 plus years later to see if it's just as good a hunting as it was then now. Brought to you by Gunwerks, the long-range experience. This time of year, this late September, early October, it's really all about water. Pools like this that you find scattered throughout these great concessions, but in here this morning, some elephants have just been in here. So the trick is walk the edges of this and see if we can see any. If they've been in here in the morning, at least we can get on them and follow them out to, maybe a shady spot where they'll rest up or something. My good luck charm, the lovely Miss Shelley, is experiencing Zimbabwe for the first time. Let's hope her luck holds out one more time. Well, that's nice, huh? A lot of things have changed in the last 30 years. Hunting style, people's hairdos, the color of people's hair. But some things haven't changed. And going back to the same place where it all began, in one of the greatest hunting destinations anywhere, Zimbabwe. Coming through, huh? For me, it all started when I got this wild hair that I needed to go to Africa. Even as a little kid, for some reason, I had this burning desire to go to Africa and go hunting. And what's really weird about it is there weren't a lot of hunters in my family. But for me, I had to go. I don't know what it was. It was just one of those things that's in your DNA that Africa called me to come over and check it out. Years of anticipation, getting a rifle checked out, and was I jacked up when we finally got to Africa and got out hunting. I mean, I got a beautiful bush buck, I got my first kudu. It was unbelievable. And the truth is that coming to Africa changed my life. Now that we're back in Zimbabwe, we're hunting with Chaturunga Safari and the great PH, Steve Bezadenhout. Steve's a great guy to hang out with. We had a million laughs, but he's a serious hunter. He's been hunting for a long time in Zim, and it's great to always get and experience a new PH and his perspective on hunting. He's the kind of guy, when he's backing you up and he's showing you what to do, that you go, hey, I think this guy actually knows what he's talking about. All right, the old Gunwerks has come all the way from Seattle to London to Joburg to Zimbabwe. Here we are in the Matetse area. We're gonna give it a try, just make sure everything's on. You never wanna just go out hunting, because at least this way, if the gun's still on and I miss, then we know what the problem is. Not that that's gonna happen, just saying. But if you're out in the field and you miss, then you're not sure what the hell's going on. So this way, we're gonna be 100% sure that the gun's working, our Zy-scope's working, everything is fine. Now there's just the guy on the end of it that you have to worry about. Zimbabwe has had one of the greatest conservation programs for years and years. Let's be frank, Zimbabwe's had its difficulties. It's a very poor country. They've got a new administration now that's struggling with taking over the country. But when it comes to wildlife, for years and years and years now, they've been doing a fantastic job of sustainable use hunting conservation. This is another great example of sustainable use conservation practices helping all of the wildlife in these areas of Africa. Here, with some of the revenue that they've received from guys coming in hunting, they've been able to put in a pump that's operated with solar power, and it's pumping water in here from a well that's way over there, and that keeps water here year round, because right now it hasn't rained for 6 months and everything's dried up. This is virtually the only water we've seen in a day and a half of driving around. So there again, if it wasn't for revenue coming in, you know, this has to be paid for somehow. You don't put all this in and maintain these pumps and keep this going without that kind of revenue. So without sustainable use conservation, this is one water hole that would not be here. So it's working. Best conservation model that we ever figured out is sustainable use. Fire in Africa is one of those things that's kind of the good news, bad news. The bad news is you get out there in the field and one day you see way off in the distance that, let's say there's some elephants out there, but you can't get to them because you're losing sunlight. The next day you go back there and a fire raged through and there's no reason for those elephants to be there because all the grass and all the trees, everything's burned. The good news is with fire is that it takes all the dead understory and all the broken branches and that and purifies the ground. And then after the first rain, that green grass comes back big time. And that's where your high protein, succulent grass is that animals just thrive on. We had the chance to see lots of wildlife and tons of elephant today, but just not that special bull we were hoping for. But there's always tomorrow. One of the iconic species of Africa is, of course, the African elephant. And they're definitely a barometer of how conservation programs are working in the country. You immediately see, when you get into the hunting concessions, how well their sustainable use programs have been working. We're seeing more elephants than we see of anything else. That tells me that the Zimbabweans are taking great care of their wildlife.
Get up close. Okay, if it's not a good one, we won't bother. We decided to go elephant hunting. We were out here looking for buffalo, but all of a sudden we've seen a group of elephants and one of them looks like a real dandy. So it's been a while since we've shot an elephant and I can't wait. It's like one of the most exciting things you can do. Let's go see what happens. Gunwerks. I love this rifle. We've already taken buffalo and brown bear. Now we're gonna see what it does on one of the big boys. Fingers crossed.
What a setup. Everything was perfect.
Just watch out for that cow. She's watching us.
And then the wind changed.
Those cows have got him covered.
Once the elephants got our wind, that was it. Panic set in. The cows took off, went one way, but lucky for me, the bull decided to stop
Bring the sticks.
and stand his ground.
Open the sticks.
Behind that time, huh?
On the arrow. Just 4 fingers in front. On that roach bench.
He's done, huh?
Perfect. Beautiful bull.
Unbelievable, huh? Thank you, man.
My pleasure.
An old bull, huh?
Yeah. You can see that backbone of his is clearly visible. These are the ones you want to take.
Yep, he's done. He's hanging out with those guys. Not a breeder anymore.
Yeah.
But it's programs like this. I mean, Zimbabwe's done such a great job, you know, and you guys as professional hunters, of being out here and protecting these herds. We've seen zero poaching while we've been here.
Yeah.
You know, for a hunting concession to be that well managed, we've got the park way over there. I mean, we're a long ways from the park, but if you, by taking one every once in a while, meanwhile, thousands get to live and are protected.
How many elephants have we seen today? I mean, it just
Hundreds.
speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And for the hunting poaching, I mean, we've got to thank National Parks here, our scout that's with us today. They handle all of that, so and they do a good job at it.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see. But it's that kind of, you know, sustainable use conservation that, you know, we're involved in as hunters that pays off, and to get to take a tremendous animal like this, that not one piece of meat, not one piece of skin, nothing will be wasted.
Nothing goes
from
to
this
waste.
animal. The bones, they'll take everything here. So, you know, there's a village outside this block that's going to be really happy tonight.
They're going to be fed very well.
You know, and thank you again to the guys at Gunwerks for putting together this skull, and Zeiss for this beautiful scope, Swift ammunition. It's a combination that's been working great for us, and you can't say enough. I mean, Gunwerks is known for their long-range shooting, but talk about a dependable, great 375. You know,
Beautiful
you don't
gun.
think twice about shooting, jacking another one in. The
Yeah.
confidence level that I have in a rifle like this is so high because of their workmanship.
I think with that combination with that scope you've got on there, can't be beaten.
It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a day.
Get to our pictures.
Elephant hunting in Zimbabwe. Yes.